Hi.
Okay, yeah, it looks like we are live. Hello, everyone.
Let us know if you can't hear us or something like that in case something goes out, microphone or whatever. But yeah, welcome to our first public live stream. We don't really know what to expect, and we really want to leave it up to you guys to lead the conversations. So if you have any questions for us, obviously type those into the chat. Otherwise, what have you been working on lately?
Boy, I mean that's a pretty broad topic. A lot, I guess. That's the fair answer, the honest answer.
Yeah.
A whole hell of a lot. We've been busy with the Lake Michigan Mothman story. I mean, that thing won't die. Every time I think that it's sort of fading, we get another. Mini flap. I've taken to calling them. Like they're more of a flutter than a flap at this point. So if you look at like Woodstock, for instance, we had maybe 3 or 4 reports from people who had contacted us in that area. I mean, really only one of which was investigated really up to my standards, and it's the only report that we published. So there's that. Getting ready for our conferences and appearance, and sort of keeping up with the news, scheduling features, things like that, and then of course trying to be a part of the community, which is what this is about, and that's a big part of our mission too, as the Singular Fortean Society. We want to foster not just open and honest paranormal investigation, but also a real paranormal community. I'm sure not a lot of people take the time to read our mission statement on the website, which is fine. It's not like I go out of my way to look for them when I'm on people's sites.
Oh man, I gotta go to this website. I gotta find their mission statement.
Yeah, that's what people. Yeah, I'm sure it's the first thing everybody thinks, but it's in there as far as fostering a strong community, because one of the things that I believe very strongly is that because the paranormal is so much. Really just a series of experiential phenomena, I think, in my opinion. What gives the community strength, and what needs to be considered very carefully, to me, is everybody's voice. Like every individual needs to feel like they have a voice in this community, and so that's something I want to foster, through the society. And so, hopefully we're doing okay. And if there's anything, we can do better, obviously, I want to hear about that.
Yeah.
But that's sort of what we've been trying to do with our Patreon, beyond the membership, as far as like keeping the lights on around here. I think it provides a space for people to really not just contribute necessarily, but it provides a space for us to really function as a society. And what I mean by that is, if you take our society live streams, for instance, it's a monthly opportunity for us to get together in a safe space, frankly, and share what's going on with us. And I don't mean just Emily and I mean every society member, and share what's going on with us, share what is interesting to us right now as far as the breadth of paranormal phenomena. And it's also a good safe space to share your opinions. That's something that I think most people are probably pretty familiar with, especially who have any professional connection to the paranormal community, is how volatile a situation that something as seemingly innocuous as sharing your opinion can create. And so, I don't a lot of the time. We try to stay objective. We try to objectively report things, and I just try to leave my opinion the hell out of it. But it's nice to be able to get together with our fellow society members and express those opinions, amongst not necessarily like-minded people, but people who also are open-minded, and people who, at the very least, because they're a member of the Singaporean Society, that they're at least open-minded enough to agree to disagree, if nothing else, and we can do that if we need to. But that's, honestly, that's one of my favorite functions of the Singaporean Society, as we've sort of officially, codified it at this point,
Mm-hmm.
by adding some structure, adding some opportunities for membership from people who believe in our mission statement, and who want to be a part of what we consider, something important as far as bringing, paranormal investigation sort of into the 21st century. Emily's typing something.
Oh, but no, it's fine.
Well, I wrote on. So
just so you know, if we just kind of start talking, you can always just type something in the box. We will get to the question and finish our sentences.
You need to interrupt me. No, that's an important part of this. Yeah. Because otherwise, I'm just going to keep talking
forever.
And
we don't want to waste anybody's time, because this is for you guys, really.
Right. I hope I'm not wasting anybody's time. Jeez, that's mean. Anyway, yeah. So I think part of the purpose of what we wanted to do here, was to talk about, our aspirations as far as the Singaporean Society is concerned. Right? Like kind of what we wanted to do.
Sure.
What we hope people will be a part of,
and we want to know what you guys want to see from us.
Of course, or just from the society. Like what can we do together?
Yeah, because we're always looking to grow this community. I kind of feel like we're just like, want the community so bad.
Well, it's I've spent the greater portion of my life being a huge weirdo, with basically nobody to talk to about it. And honestly, that's something I'll digress, because digressing is like my superpower. That's something that I get a lot when I speak to witnesses. Seriously, like so many people who contact us, and once I get them on the phone or in person or whatever, they're just so damn happy and grateful to finally have somebody to whom they can speak regarding what happened to them, because a lot of the time people can't even talk to their own families, loved ones. It's isolating. What is this?
Space-time graphic design. I think that might be Tennille. If I'm wrong, sorry. So the question is, hey guys, I'm here and I have a question. Before you move into a new place, do you ask the landlords if it's haunted? And do you know if it's true that they have to tell you?
It is Tennille.
Yay. Right. Hey.
Okay. So I don't personally ask. And my reasoning for that is, I figure I'll find out eventually. And I don't consider most hauntings to really be something that are likely to be harmful, frankly. And honestly, if it was the rare haunting that might be, I'm willing to jump on that grenade. I think that we'd be more prepared than most to deal with something like that. So why not us? And as far as landlords having to tell you, see, now that's interesting. In the U.S., I think it varies by state. I do know that there have been actual civil suits brought against property owners for not disclosing that before the sale of a property. I know of at least one case in New York State where that happened. And so, as far as a landlord having to tell a potential tenant, boy, I'm not familiar with any precedent, civil or otherwise, that would dictate their responsibility there. But I do know in some states, prior to selling a property, they are required to disclose that.
I know when we moved in here, when we rent right now, just for context, a lot of the rental properties where we live are very, very, very old buildings.
This house is probably 100 years old,
if not more than that. I personally, I think when you go to a showing here, I don't know if that's a question I've ever thought to ask, but I kind of, I guess, come with it with an open mind. No, when we were looking at this place, for instance, I was like, it's a super old building, but so many of them are. So I think I could always just assume that it's a possibility given the type of housing we have in our area.
Well, we're generally, I think, sensitive enough to where when I walk into a place, obviously opinions on things like, psychic connection or paranormal and stuff will vary by person. But, I'll tell you, I do have a particular feeling that I get when we go into a place, and something does actually end up happening that is unexplained. And so I've never felt that here, frankly. I've seen things in our neighborhood outside of the house, but yeah, I've never experienced anything here. And so I guess part of why I've never asked a landlord or anybody, whatever, a property manager who like whoever's showing the place, is because one, I don't know them.
Are they going to think we're weirdos for asking? Right. I think that's part of.
You have to consider it. But then two, I mean, maybe they know, maybe they don't. But like I said before, I'll figure it out pretty quickly.
And I think it's interesting that's a very interesting question too, because I don't think that question comes up much in the housing market as much as it does businesses, because businesses either are or they're not, for maybe a couple reasons they would choose to, maybe a business just chooses to be no, we're not haunted, but they might be, just for a reputation standpoint. And some places are just no, absolutely we are.
Sure.
Because they want that tourism.
Well, of course, some places, I mean, they have a very vested economic interest in being haunted, and we've seen that, especially with the advent of things like, paranormal reality television. I mean, a lot of stuff you see on television now, it's really less about paranormal investigation and more about a paranormal tourism economy, frankly. So yeah, okay. I feel like I'm getting off topic again.
No, it's okay. Okay. To Neil, to ask you, have you ever done that where you live? Have you ever asked a landlord about a place you've lived, and what are the laws out in the UK, since that's where you are?
I was going to say, well, I mean, and also yeah, for everybody who's not familiar, our friend Tennille lives in England. But I mean, is there anything not haunted in England? Honestly,
that's right? True. Yeah.
It's one of those places where everything's so damn old.
Both of the last two cases we talked about on 40 and photography have been in England, sure. And a lot of them, just knowing a bunch of cases off the top of my head, are from there. So
right. Well, I mean, you can look to England to see, the very early origins of paranormal investigation.
Yep.
Right.
We just talked about in the last episode, one of the oldest paranormal words.
Easy for you to say.
Paranormal Associations out there was founded, I think, in like 1882, and that was in that area. So
Sure. Well, you have to think about, the rise of like the spiritualist movement.
Yep.
And how that coincided with early paranormal investigation and its origins.
The next one's also in England. I just remembered that.
Cottingley fairies,
yep.
right? Yeah.
So yeah, just this coming month, the paranormal or the 40 in photography episode will be on the Cottingley fairies. I haven't yet, but I've always wanted to. I'm actually looking at places tomorrow, and I'm definitely going to ask one of them. I don't know if they have to disclose it, but I'll ask that too. Well, cool. Phyllis, that's awesome.
Let us know.
We're so curious to hear what happens with that.
I would be very curious.
And I think part of me doesn't ask here because I'm like, wait, where's the washer and dryer? Do we have a washer and dryer here?
That's true.
There's so many things I'm like worried about when looking at apartments over if it's fun or not, because I just kind of like, well, if it's here, I'll deal with it. And
right. Well, yeah. I mean, I could put up.
We mentioned that already, but.
I mean, I could put up with a full-blown poltergeist if there's off-street parking. I mean, that's fine. Whatever. I don't care.
Yeah.
It just makes things interesting. So
yeah.
Hopefully that answers that.
Yeah, I think it does.
Well, what do you have coming up?
Well, 40 in photography, obviously. I got to start my research with that. It takes me about a month to do the research for those. So it's a good deep dive, good project. We usually film them later in the month just to give myself some time. I'm working on our new merchandise shop, getting designs in there. And then just some like website maintenance, getting ready for conferences. I actually have a couple pieces at an art show in Minneapolis right now. The show opens this coming Saturday, the 6th. So if you're in the Twin Cities area for whatever reason, the opening is 4 to 11 p.m. at the Jackson Art Flats, and the show will still be open to the public 12 to 5 every Sunday, except the last Sunday of April, because that's when they take everything down. Right. So
we have a really, really nice art community up there, and a really good paranormal community. So
yeah, so it's really cool. I did a show with them in this past October. Hopefully we'll again, called Gods and Monsters, and that's a little bit more up our alley, although the unicorns are welcome, fantastical creatures in my universe. So but yeah, really supportive community. I think even one of our Madison colleagues runs a tour up there.
Dylan Mike's.
Yeah, American Ghost Walks. They do a couple tours up there.
Right, St. Paul. Right? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, anybody who finds themselves, in northern Wisconsin or Minneapolis, St. Paul, look for American Ghost Walks.
It'll be called probably The Chain. I think he calls it chain. I don't want to make it sound cheap.
No, it's certainly not. I mean, Mike is very, very hands-on. I've always been very impressed by the level of research and the hard work he puts into that. Like he's not cutting corners. No. He's got a lot of tours. They keep him crazy busy. And he spends a lot of time making sure that every one of those tours is run by somebody who is knowledgeable and personable and capable of maintaining a certain standard, of quality. So, I know that he had expanded so much that he had sort of rebranded, and I wanted to say it was like American Ghost Walks.
It's American Ghost Walks, but each individual tour is like our local one is Madison Ghost Walks. So up there it'd be Minneapolis, St. Paul Ghost Walks. I'd be curious to check that out sometime. The downtown's really cool. They have the old mill and stuff like that. So yeah, that's more or less what I have going on.
Yeah, I always like to tell people, and maybe you guys have heard this already, maybe you haven't, because I tell everybody, but a lot of the stuff, Emily does outside of, outside of being, our photography and video expert. She does all of the design. She's literally the reason that I am not just another crazy person ranting on the internet, in green text on a black background. So she definitely stays plenty busy. You know, that's for sure.
I'm behind my computer a lot.
Right. Well, you know, God's bless you, because somebody has to do it, right? Like, it's not going to be me.
I don't know.
I'm not very good at it.
I think like a lot of like paranormal TV shows and stuff like make like what we do seem so glamorous, and sometimes I think it's even
sometimes it's exciting. Sometimes
I think it's just funny. Look, for those who don't know, I do work as a photography creative professional full time outside of what we do here, and it's just interesting the similar aspects of the community. Like, there's a lot of people who glamorize the life of a wedding photographer, and oh, they get to travel and go here and there. Oh, hi, Allison.
Thanks.
I am the least glamorous person ever.
Nobody knows this. Okay, so our friend Allison is here. You know, nobody knows this better than her. You know, as a paranormal investigator herself, I'm sure she recognizes how the real work of investigation is often nowhere near as sexy as a lot of shows try to portray it. You know, it's a lot of weekends at the historical side, at the historical society, or at the library.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a lot of it's a lot of travel. God, I drive so much. You know, I drives me crazy. But yeah, I mean, that's
a lot of it's spent behind the computer too, just at home. We're not constantly going out to see this crazy thing. Like,
we do, but that's like that's a small part of it. You know, like what people would consider the exciting part, like, you know, being on site and speaking to the witness and going around to the sighting, like the sighting location, and taking photographs and looking for things and verifying details and whatever. You know, like it's part of it. It is, but it's not the most time consuming part. That's for sure.
Allison, how many hours do you think you spend at the library every week? I'm just curious if you thought about it.
You just count all research, honestly.
It doesn't have to be the library, but how much time do you think you spend? Like, let's just say Monday through Friday, leave the weekends out of this. How much do you think you spend time researching?
I bet it's a lot.
Well, I'm thinking, personally. Well, you do way more than I do, but I would say if you're like, let's say we have like 4 to 5 hours home after work every day, 2-3 hours per night. Yeah.
Oh, if you want to count, like, I mean, that's on par with what Allison said, 2 to 3 hours per night. Yeah. I mean, if you want to count like researching and writing articles, yeah, you know, I mean, total, if you include the weekend, that's 40 hours a week, I'm sure. You know, it's a lot, you know, and it's got to be a labor of love, you know. If this isn't, and this is why I tell people this a lot, you know.
Oh, cool.
Oh, okay, cool.
Is it a secret, or can you tell us what it is?
Yes, Allison is researching something for a presentation.
If it's a secret for marketing purposes, that's fine.
Right. Yeah, of course.
Because if you don't want to reveal it yet, that's cool. But
right. But you know, a lot of people have deep cover. So secrets. I don't know.
That's cool. We're excited to hear what that is.
Right. Oh yeah, definitely. What was I saying?
I don't know.
Oh yeah, a lot of people will approach me, you know, because they're interested. I'm subbing for Chad Lewis on Thursday.
Is that like a library appearance somewhere?
Yeah, I know. Oh God, I saw he
did some Facebook event recently.
Jackson History Center. Okay,
cool. That's cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, I see. Yeah, I know. I saw that Chad was going to be at the Sun Prairie Library with, I think, Kevin Nelson. That sounded right.
I saw the Facebook event like this week at one point.
Yeah, I like to go because, you know, they're good at what they do, and they're entertaining talks. And it's nice because then we can cover it, you know, journalistically for the Singular Fortean Society, and just from a I'm super busy perspective, they're really easy articles and people like to read them. So, yeah, that's cool. So yeah, Jackson History Center. I assume, is that in Milwaukee? I'm not super
It's
familiar.
by Milwaukee. Actually, my brother just moved to a condo there. So,
Okay.
yeah, it's like a kind of town suburb outside of, kind of in that, I want to say it's Washington County, but I don't know. I'm not that great with my small towns.
Yeah, for sure. Well, hey, we're going to be, actually, as long as that, we got Allison here now, we're going to be Jackson Historical Society at 7 p.m. Well, anybody around Milwaukee, go see Allison at the Jackson Historical Society at 7 p.m. When did you say that was? Thursday, 7 p.m. Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic time. Hey, we're happy to do it. I was going to say too, we're all going to be at Haunted America towards the end of June this year. And now I know, Allison, you're going to be talking there, right? Can you tell us what you're going to be doing at Haunted America, as long as we got you? Because we'll be there. We're going to be bringing the Singular Fortean Society Repository of Unusual Stories, which is going to be, this is the first time we're ever trying anything like this, so we'll see how it goes. But it's going to be our attempt to sort of document historically people's personal experiences.
Oh, I'm going to go to that presentation. She's going to talk about poltergeists and possessions in the Midwest.
Fascinating stuff. Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. So, absolutely come see us at Haunted America. Tell us some ghost stories on camera if you want. It doesn't have to be a ghost story. It could be any
paranormal story. And I know, for those who follow us on YouTube, we do have a series called The Repository of Unusual Stories that we've already started, aside from this tent at a convention setup.
Right.
And we've approached people we know that have had stories, and it's been about 50-50 people want to go on camera, which I get, because being on camera is so much more daunting than being on a podcast or otherwise.
Right.
So if you end up at any of these conventions or ever want to do it, but you don't want to be seen on camera, but you want to tell your story in that medium, we do have ways to make your face not seen.
Right. Well, also, I mean, as long as we're on the subject, I'd like to bring this up. So at our last meetup, our friend Mike, who is Allison's brother, actually, was there. And, we had a great conversation. And, one of the points he made that I completely agree with is, at the end of the day, obviously witness anonymity is something that I'm very willing to preserve, because it's not up to me to decide, how somebody's paranormal event affects their life, I guess. But, again, one of the points he made, and I do ultimately agree with this, is that the best way, probably the only way, we're going to make more ground in eroding the societal stigma surrounding these subjects is for people, to be willing to come forward, and tell their story. And I think that if people do that in a way that leaves it open to interpretation, I think they would be fine. I think where some people go wrong and how it ends up, sort of ruining their life is, one, when they let their life become a circus surrounding, whatever story they're telling. And two, when they just sort of staunchly support a specific narrative, and that narrative is something that's very unproven. So like, let's say somebody, has what we would probably recognize as an abduction event, for instance, that happens to them. And then, like, they're sure it was aliens, and they applied this strict narrative to it. People are going to look at that and go, well, you're off your rocker. You don't know that. But if they just stuck to their story and was like, look, this is what happened to me. This was my experience at the very least, like this is the story as it's authentic to my experience, then I think that there would be a lot less ridicule involved.
So Allison brought up the point, 100 plus people came forward publicly in the Point Pleasant Mothman sightings of 1966 to 67.
Sure. Yeah, there was a lot of that. And I think what we're seeing now, and actually this was something else we had talked about at our last meetup, there's a number of factors involved here, because you do have to go back to the 60s and 70s, and I guess, early 80s. Those were the last decades that I can remember. Not that I was, alive for most of it, but when you're familiar with these historical cases, it did used to be much more common for people to come forward, and I think
even tell the police.
Yeah, nobody calls the police anymore. Most people don't want to come forward, and I think there are a couple of things, because it would be very easy to be cynical about it and just say, oh well, they must be full of it because they're not reporting it to the authorities, or they're not willing to come forward publicly.
Well, and think about Kelly Hopkinsville. It's not like during that one where they're like, oh, we have this happening at our house, let me call our local paranormal investigator to look. That wasn't as much of a thing.
Sure. Yeah.
So I think it was just a default to call the police.
Right. Well, and what I was going to say was,
sorry.
No, you're fine. What I was going to say is, I think that there's a pretty well documented history of how those actions affected witnesses' lives, and it wasn't good. Frankly, the repercussions of putting themselves out there, of being on the record, it affected people's lives very negatively. I know from, say, talking to Seth Breedlove, from Small Town Monsters, it took a lot for him to get the Flatwoods witnesses to talk to him, because coming forward with a story like that, it created a media circus, and it would ruin people's lives. It would ruin their credibility in their own community. There are serious social repercussions for stuff like that. Joe Simonton's another.
I was just about to say.
That's another perfect example,
lot,
and that's right here in Wisconsin. He would have done anything to take back telling his story publicly, because frankly, it wrecked his whole life. Mm-hmm. And anybody in the modern day who doesn't pay attention to that or doesn't recognize it, I think is probably at best, woefully, I guess, ignorant of the repercussions, and then at worst is maybe just being disingenuous. But the fact is, even people who aren't into the paranormal know what happens to people that come forward. What is this? Allison says, I think a lot more people are experiencing extraordinary things than most people would guess. I totally agree with that.
Yep.
It's not only the stigma, but that these experiences are so far from our understanding. Yeah, no, that's another good point. And I didn't want to, I guess, imply that it was only that. But yeah,
it's a complicated.
It's a big part of it. Yeah. It is. There's a lot to this. So it's not just people having learned that coming forward with these stories will wreck your whole life. It's also that people have a hard time talking about them. People have a hard time talking about them with their own friends and loved ones. And I think I mentioned that earlier. That's something that I get all the time from witnesses. They're so happy to talk to a paranormal investigator because they can't even talk to their own family about it. And it is so far outside of any person's paradigm who isn't sort of a professional weirdo, I guess. That it's difficult for people to put it into words sometimes. Even precisely what they saw, you can talk to 10 witnesses who saw the same thing, and they'll each have applied their own separate narratives to it, and tried to contextualize the same weird thing, and they'll give you 10 different descriptions. And that, that certainly doesn't make our job any easier, but it's part of the job. But I think that goes to show how people struggle to even put into language their experiences, when it comes to the unexplained.
I think also with that in mind, like some of these paranormal shows, which can be good, they're not able to depict what that person has experienced on film necessarily. Like it's just such a challenging way. Like it's hard to portray what that person felt and experienced as it's.
No, you totally are. It's something that I struggle with when it comes to like paranormal reality, television shows or shows about paranormal investigation, because I don't know that video is the best medium for describing the experience of paranormal investigation or paranormal experiences themselves. And I don't. Maybe it's just my bias as a writer, but I think that it's too difficult to capture on camera, say a weird feeling, like you can't,
the spine, like your spine tingling or
you can't
sensations.
Yes, you can't videotape a chill running up somebody's spine.
That's what I was trying to get at, was like that.
You can't capture on camera a vision. You can't capture on camera a weird feeling or mood or the air of oppression that exists in a desperately haunted building. You can't. But those are things that you can express through the written word. And you can express them quite well. And I think that does.
Or speaking.
Yeah, sure.
I think public speaking does that very well.
It definitely can.
And that's why I think is like it's important to remember the difference between like documentaries versus like.
Right. I mean, I think documentaries are great as far as like
cutaways, and because somebody telling their story, how they experienced it, and then you cut away to maybe like a reenactment or like what the place looked like, but you have that combination. I think that's a good way to do that.
You can look at the work that Small Town Monsters has done and see what paranormal documentaries are capable of, and they're capable of quite a lot. But I would hope that most people understand the difference between a documentary and a reality television program. When Small Town Monsters is filming a documentary, like that's one thing. Like that narrative experience is much different than a camera crew following around a team of investigators trying to capture their experience of investigating a real location. Like it's a whole other animal.
Looks like we got another question from Tennille.
Great.
Do you think that's anything in real newspapers like the Times not picking paranormal stories and red tops like the sun leaping on it are not great newspapers dropping down?
Are not great newspapers dropping down or doing good? Oh, I see what you're saying.
Okay. Yeah, sorry.
So yeah, the mainstream press has not been great, in the last several decades, frankly, with covering paranormal phenomena, and it has largely been relegated to tabloids. Do I think that that's a good thing? God, I don't know. I remember, I was interviewing Lauren Coleman at the 2016 Milwaukee Paranormal Conference. And, one of the things I wanted to ask him about specifically was what he thought about shows like Finding Bigfoot, shows that were basically, paranormal reality television shows, but for cryptozoology. And we had a pretty good discussion. I thought, and he said sort of his opinion was this ambivalence, frankly, where on the one hand, I think you've got things like tabloids and certain exploitative reality shows that, boy, they're certainly not the best treatment of these subjects. But on the other hand, they are
reducing the stigma a little bit.
Well, they are increasing the exposure. What effect that's having on the stigma? I mean, any positive effect it's having could very well be outweighed by the association of any subject with that format. Certainly nobody considers anything more reputable after having been seen in any tabloid. So, silver lining, I guess, is that at least now we are seeing more mainstream coverage. The New York Times had a huge piece on the AATIP not that long ago. When that story broke, that's huge, and I don't even know if we realize how big that was, because it's not even about the fact that there probably still continues to be a secret government UFO research project. But the fact that a newspaper in the 21st century, like the New York Times, was willing to put in the work and then put their name behind a story like that was big, and people noticed. Other media outlets noticed, and suddenly now you've got people in the mainstream press, and it's not it's not going to happen overnight, but suddenly you've got people who aren't just laughing this stuff out of the newsroom anymore. So that's great. I think that maybe tabloids helped to keep the paranormal subjects alive in the press long enough for more reputable outlets to start picking them up. Maybe, I don't know, but yeah, no, I don't think that there's a huge benefit to your Daily Mail or the Sun or anybody else.
I had a professor who used to collect them because they were ridiculous, and that was the attitude towards it. So it's based on, it's a tabloid. End of day, it's a tabloid. Right.
Well, I mean, there's a reason people isn't the colloquialism for the Daily Mail, the Daily Fail.
I've heard that. I forgot about that.
Yeah. So I mean, and there's a reason for that. It's provocative. It's not what journalism is supposed to be.
It's for around the water cooler.
Right. Water cooler at best. Sure. Anyway, I guess in summation, I think that any benefit that is to be had by tabloids keeping sort of paranormal phenomena in the popular consciousness is probably outdone by the negative association that people have with stories run in tabloids. So at best, we're breaking even. At worst, it's causing people to take them even less seriously.
Yeah.
So
we'll stay on if you guys have any more questions, let us know. Otherwise, we'll look into wrapping this up. I'll just mention quick that yes, we do typically reserve these chats monthly for society members, but we will do this again, probably with milestones, or every so often we will have public chats. So thanks for coming to this first one. And I think we've had some great conversations today, and we'd love to do it again in the future.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, thank you to Allison Jornlin. Thank you to Tennille for stopping by.
Hi. to Freestyle Pro Kids Vlogs.
Well, hello. Yeah, shoot. Sorry, person who just came on. We're actually just about to leave, but we'll do another one of these.
We'll stay on for a couple more minutes for any new questions, but then
Sure.
after that, we'll let everybody get back to their Sundays.
All right, fair enough.
Allison did comment. In referring back to the topic we were just discussing, I agree. It's relegation to the intellectual gutter.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume that you know, I would not presume to speak for Allison, but based on conversations we've had and just being friends, yeah, I would assume that, yeah, she would probably agree with that.
Yeah.
So, but well, I don't. Is anybody else typing?
You guys just got a.
I don't know what that is.
I don't know either.
Okay. Well, all right. Let us. Is that a robot? I don't know.
Could be.
Could be. You don't know. That's the real paranormal mystery.
There's a lot of robots everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
Sorry if you aren't a robot.
Right. Well, you guys have a great weekend. Thanks again, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you soon.
And this chat, this video will be able to be viewed later on. It's recorded by YouTube. So yeah, thanks for hopping on with us for about 40 minutes. And we hope you all we hope you all have a great weekend, and we'll see you online and anywhere else.
All right. Bye everybody.